and gentlemen, we'll get started. You're very welcome to the Grain Store here, and we are putting on a series of talks. Local hero, global hero is the theme. We had a great session this morning, and it's a really good opportunity to get, a real sense of different ideas in quite a reasonably short period of time. And at the end of each extended session, we have a Q&A session where obviously you can ask any questions or make any comments that you want. So at the end of this session, we'll have a Q&A, and then we'll break for lunch. So I'm going to immediately introduce Ari Weinzweig, which is how I pronounce his name, but he will, I'm sure, correct me. He's the founder of Zingerman's Deli in Michigan, which is it's also a group of 9 businesses in Michigan, which aims to be holistic and good for the ecosystem. But what he's talking about here is how to create a successful business and, most importantly, a happy workforce. So he's going to talk for the next 20 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next speaker. And then Ari will be back on the stage for the Q&A. So please put your hands together for Ari.
Thank you, Ella. Good morning. What I'm really going to talk about is local hero, global hero, because trying to tell you in 15 minutes how to run your business doesn't work. But I will tell you a little about our business. Since it's a lit fest, I thought I'd read a little bit. In his essay, Politics Within Limits, philosopher, playwright, poet, and anarchist Paul Goodman wrote, "Having a vocation is somewhat of a miracle, like falling in love and it works out." His supposition fits me to a T. 30 or so years ago, I fell in love with my work. This book is about how that love story came to happen. I'm also in full agreement with what an elderly French farmer told food writer Patricia Wells, as quoted in her fine book, A Food Lover's Guide to France. "We love our work," he said. "We don't count our hours. We think our work has values." These two quotes, one from a well-known New York intellectual, the other from an unnamed Provençal peasant, sum things up for me. The wonders of hard work, rather than wondering why we have to work hard, never counting hours while mindfully making every hour count, the power of a poet and the poetry of power used in positive ways, working out in both senses of the word, making a difference in the world, anarchist insights, old-fashioned farming, and falling in love. All are essential elements in what's made my life so seriously rewarding. They are also, I believe, a big part of what's made Zingerman's so successful. So, good morning. So, local hero. Are we a local hero? I don't know. I'm just sort of a standard Midwestern American kid that grew up in Chicago in a middle-class family that went up to University of Michigan to go to school and studied Russian history with a particular focus on the anarchists, which we can come back to at a different time. And after graduating, had absolutely no clue what I would do next, and so I decided I would stay in Ann Arbor, which seemed like a nice town. Has anybody been to Ann Arbor? A few of you. So I don't know what to compare it to in Ireland, but it's about 100,000 people, big university town. Maybe Galway, I guess, would be the closest thing. But anyways, I stayed there with no particular intention other than not going home. In order to do that, I needed a job. I took a job as a dishwasher, long story short, at a restaurant, not because I love food, not because I love business, but just because I needed a job and my friend was working there, and I got lucky. I ended up meeting my business partner, who was the general manager, and I ended up falling in love with the food business and with food and with cooking. So I stayed at that restaurant group and line cooked and ran kitchens for about 4 years. And then my partner Paul and I opened Zingerman's Deli in 1982 with 2 employees and 29 seats in 1,300 square feet, which you can translate in your head into meters. I don't know what it is. Small. Today, we have 700 employees in 9 businesses, all located in the Ann Arbor area. But our focus from day one really has been always about traditional, full-flavored food. So like many of the people who are speaking over the next 2 days, it's really about the food for us. We make American cream cheese by hand. We make candy bars by hand the way they would have been done in 1900. We have a farm and we grow heirloom produce organically. We work with olive oils and honeys and mustards and jams and spices, coffee and tea, always going back to the old way. It's a way that I could bring my history degree into practice is by studying the food. So that's really what we do. Local hero, our definition of local from the beginning really has not really been about geography. It's really, although that's a piece of it, it's broader. Because for me, local means that we have a relationship with the people that we buy from, a relationship with the people we sell to, a relationship with the people that work with us, and a relationship with the food that goes much deeper than something along the lines of trends. To be clear, at the time that we opened a deli in 1982, the American food scene was a little bit different than it is now. There were two goat cheeses that we could get. They both came from France and both were commercially produced, Boucheron and Montrachet. For the Americans in the room, Laura Chanel was just starting to produce her cheese, and it was a huge victory when we air-shipped the first shipment of her cheese, which actually came damaged, and we had to reship it from Santa Rosa in Northern California. That's how we got going. But really, many ways, my Irish experience, I think, typifies what we do with food. I came here to Ballymaloe, I think it was 1989. We had been in business 7 years. There was no internet, at least not that any of us were using. I had studied in books and learned about Ballymaloe and Irish cheese, and had been to Cashel Blue up in Tipperary. And then I came here and I had booked myself, which was no small thing for whatever I was, not that old, and we weren't that big, and I wasn't making that much money, but booked myself a room for a couple of nights. Came by myself in a little rental car, and somehow before dinner service, I met Myrtle, and she said, "Don't eat in the dining room, just wait another couple hours and come in the kitchen and eat with the family." And that's my experience of Ballymaloe. And through Myrtle and then through Darina and everybody, I met many people in Ireland, the Fergusons from Gabine, the Steeles from Moleens, all the different cheeses, and I tasted Macroom oatmeal here in the dining room for the first time on that stay, and we've been bringing it to Ann Arbor ever since for 25 years, and we still serve it to this day. So although it's anything but local geographically, I have a 30-year relationship with it, and we love serving it, and it's an honor to be doing it. So really, that's what we do. We work with chocolate from Tanzania, with Carolina Gold Rice. I've studied African-American foodways. I've studied Spanish pork traditions, even though I grew up in a kosher home. I wrote a book about bacon. I studied the foods of Tunisia. I've studied the foods of the Greek Jewish community from Salonika, which I find fascinating. I've written about the oysters from Apalachicola. I've written, 10,000 words about Irish butter, about Butterluck. It was just Butterluck May Day, right? Are you guys okay out there? You look so serious. Did you have bad luck this year? So really, and in many ways, being at Ballymaloe is probably one of the closest places one could go to what we do at Zingerman's, because there's all these different businesses, each unique, a deep commitment to the place in which the business is being done, a fabulously strong commitment to the quality of the food, to tradition, to educating, to learning, and also a willingness to work one's behind off. I was happy to see Darina working the serving station last night when we went through the buffet. When she came to Ann Arbor to visit us for the first time, which is probably 15 or 20 years ago, I sat her down at a picnic table. It was a nice summer day, and went to get some things, and by the time I came back 10 minutes later, she was up bussing tables, which is probably exactly what I would end up doing here. So we have a lot in common: humility, great food, and a commitment to being in the neighborhood. Global hero. Well, I don't know. We've gotten a lot of press. R.W. Apple, the late New York Times political and food writer, called us the deli of his dreams, unmatched outside New York. That's a New Yorker can't ever have anything matched in New York. Jim Harrison, a wonderful writer for Lit Fest, who actually just passed away 3 weeks ago, wrote many amazing books. Not really about food, but he said, "Zingerman's changes Ann Arbor in the manner that Wallace Stevens' jar on a hill in Tennessee changes the wilderness. If I were ever sentenced to a gut-wrenching year of teaching, I'd merely buy a house down the street and be quite happy. In Zingerman's, I get the mighty reassurance that the world can't be totally bad if there's this much good food to eat. The same flowing emotions I get at Fauchon, Harrods, Balducci's, or Dean and DeLuca. Only at Zingerman's there is a goodwill lacking in the others. Danny Meyer, who you might know from Union Square Cafe, who's become a good friend over the years, wrote something very nice, which is, whenever I hear the word Zingerman's, I feel good. I think about food and drink of peerless quality, cultivated by a group of culinary zealots whose inquisitive intelligence and genuine warmth make me know and trust that I'm in good hands, and about to consume something that will bring me pleasure. Zingerman's may do business in a small community, but their impact on the crucial importance of pursuing the best has had profound consequences on an entire nation. Mario Batali, shorter in words but equally punchy, said Zingerman's is one of the national treasures. If you watch American football, you will see us mentioned on ESPN all the time because all the announcers seem to come in and eat, which we like. President Obama came in to eat a few years ago, and we have catered Air Force One. I just came here from Slovakia, where I was teaching our business practices in Bratislava, which is a beautiful town. I recommend it. I was in Ethiopia a year ago teaching at a hospital there. Two of the trainers from Zingtrain, which is our training business, are in London right now teaching our open book management approach at Neal's Yard Dairy. I'll be keynoting at the American Cheese Society conference to 1,000 people in August. And then probably one of the best quotes, Gary Snyder, the poet, last living beat poet, friend and colleague of Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg and all those wonderful people, said, Zingerman's is a remarkable synthesis of the old and the new, the elite and the populist. I loved it. That made my day. A year and a month ago, my partner Paul and I were speaking at the commencement at University of Michigan to 50,000 people. So I guess in all of those senses, maybe we're heroes, but I don't know. Local hero, to be clear, when we opened up the Deli in 1982, the general wisdom was we were pretty much doomed to fail. Ann Arbor had had a dozen delis go under in the previous decade. The neighborhood was considered a bad neighborhood. Pretty much everybody told us we would never make it. 5 to 6 years later, we were considered geniuses. Turned out Ann Arbor always needed a deli, and it was a brilliant location. This same pattern, which I'm confident has been reproduced here at Ballymaloe and everywhere else in the world that's doing something special, makes me always think of Arthur C. Clarke, the Ceylonese science fiction writer who was quite an insightful gentleman, who said, every revolutionary idea seems to evoke 3 stages of reaction. They may be summed up by the phrases, 1, it's completely impossible. 2, well, it's possible, but it's not worth doing. 3, I said it was a good idea all along. This pattern has been repeated for us over and over and over again. In 1994, we wrote a vision that went 15 years into the future. The idea of doing one in the first place was completely antithetical to the way almost all businesses actually work. So we actually described the future that we wanted in 2009 in a 6-page document called Zingerman's 2009, which is in the back of the first business book, or I'm happy to email it to you. And in that vision, we outlined that by 2009, we would have a community of businesses all located in the Ann Arbor area, not unlike Ballymaloe, I guess. Each would be a unique business. We don't do each business more than once. I like unique things. In the spirit of Miles Davis, who said, in the spirit of the University of Michigan that wrote, excellence is a function of uniqueness. I really like unique things. I don't like copies. I'm not drawn to replicas, whether it's with food or with people or with art or with restaurants. 3 months ago, we started our employee ownership program. Of the 400 or so eligible, over 200 bought a share. So for us, very exciting. The books themselves, local, global, I don't know, it's sort of the same story. I don't like Amazon. We're off the grid. We do all the artwork. We do all the distribution ourselves. We print them in Ann Arbor. So actually buying them today is the only place you could get them in Ireland because we're off the grid. Are we heroes at all? I don't really think so. I think that we're just good people trying hard to do a good job like everybody else that's at this conference or symposium. We're just trying our best. Mohammed Bamia is a very interesting anarchist professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and he said that anarchism has no heroes and no need for heroism. And I would suggest that's true of life. I would say if we want to have heroes, then I would flip the process completely around and suggest to you that really everyone is a hero, or at least has the potential to be a hero, and that the world will be a better place the more everyone steps up to heroism and not waits for some magical, mythical leader to take care of things for us, because that never works. C.L.R. James, the radical Trinidadian historian, said, "Every cook can govern." And my mission is to make his statement be proven true. I would suggest that our work at Zingerman's, and really everyone's work in every organization that's interested in creating a more positive future, is really to help everyone we hire to become themselves and to go for greatness in everything that they do. And to understand that everybody is a creative, unique individual that has the potential to do amazing things if they're willing to do the work to help put those things into practice. Our job is to help people become themselves, and that when we look on each of them as a leader that can create something special and start to train them how to do that, really fascinating things happen. Are we heroes? I don't think so. Thomas Cahill, in the great book How the Irish Saved Civilization, wrote, "The great gift givers arriving in the moment of crisis provided for transition, for transformation, even for transfiguration, leaving us a world more varied and complex, more awesome and delightful, more beautiful and strong than the one they found." But I think everybody in this room and everybody in the planet has the chance to do that. And then when we all step up to that level of heroism, that's when wonderful things are going to start to happen. Rollo May, the mid-20th century psychologist, said that every human being must have a point at which he stands against the culture, where he says, "This is me, and the damned world can go to hell." And I think that's really our job, is to help the people that work with us to make that happen. Just in wrapping up, when Paul and I gave the commencement speech at the university, there were 50,000 people there and 6,500 graduates, and we have a process of visioning that we are very committed to at Zingerman's, and I offered to meet with any of the 6,500 graduates free. We have a training business, but I offered to meet with them free to help them with visioning in order to help them launch their lives in a positive way. Of the 6,500, 11 so far have taken me up on it. One of them had just gotten his MBA, his business degree, and was unsure of what to do with his life. His name is David Nugraha, and he ended up coming to work with us. He just moved home to Indonesia after working with us for about a year, and when he was leaving, he wrote me this note. "It's been a pleasure working at Zingerman's. It has surpassed any expectation that I had prior to working here. I am so surprised how much of myself I can be at work. On occasion, I will run into an old college friend that recently graduated. Many of them are happy to learn that I now work at Zingerman's, but they all say the same thing. I wish I could find my passion too, or something along the lines of, I wish I wasn't so worried about money, or I wish I would just do what I love. I now realize that my friends say this because they don't have any belief in themselves. They don't believe they are capable of achieving the life that they really want. I challenged them most on this negative way of thinking, and a few of them were inspired to leave their banking jobs, their consulting jobs, to now start working in the field they have a passion for. So don't think you aren't affecting only a few of the 50,000 people. You have inspired me to inspire others, so the indirect impact that you have could be way bigger than you imagine." So are we heroes? I don't know. I think everybody needs to be a hero, and I think it's really about what each of us does in the world. The last quote, and I'll get out of your way, comes from a Catholic anarchist. You didn't know there were Catholic anarchists, but there were. In fact, Albert Hubbard, the early 20th century American writer, said Jesus was an anarchist, and all good men are anarchists. But Amon Hennessy was a very interesting American late 20th century, and he said something that really resonated with me. He said, "We really can't change the world. We really can't change other people. The best we can do is start a few thinking here and there. The best way to do this, if we are sincere, is to change ourselves. The only revolution worthwhile is the one-man revolution within the heart. Each one could make this by himself and not need to wait on a majority." Thank you.